Hey, welcome back. So, for those who are just joining, every episode I interview new guests that give us some big insights for our own small business. And so we have some raw and real conversations with guests that give us tactical advice that we can actually apply. And so today I kind of wanted to get Gren from Wealthsimple because our brands really align around the whole simplicity and customer experience. And I wanted to learn more about how they continue to deliver phenomenal award-winning customer experience. We also introduced recently a group RSP plan for our own employees. And so I wanted to dive a little bit into that for people because I thought it was a pretty interesting competitive edge for small business owners now. So let's get to it.
Yeah, we really believe that sort of human element to our experience. Again, you need both pieces. You need the great tech, you need the great product, but you need the human experience as well.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Insights podcast. So excited to share this episode today with some big insights from our very special guest, Gren Austin from Wealthsimple, who helps us better understand some of the investment options for small businesses and its employees. Also, he helps us understand some of the secrets of Wealthsimple's unique client experience that they provide to small business owners and their employees. I invite you right now to follow the podcast or you'll miss out on some of the upcoming episodes. Also, give us a review on your podcast provider of choice and let us know how we're doing. So today we're joined by Gren Austin. Gren is the head of Wealthsimple Work. So he's responsible for the day-to-day operations of Wealthsimple's group retirement business. Wealthsimple helps grow wealth through simple, delightful, and human experiences. And Gren is a big believer that extends into the workplace too. Passionate about helping Canadians achieve their own version of financial freedom. And Gren knows that employer programs like group RSPs can help Canadians get started on their retirement plans. And so prior to Wealthsimple, Gren spent some time at League supporting the company's growth at the intersection of health, benefits, and technology. And so we're so lucky to have Gren with us today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Eric. This is great.
Awesome. Let's get straight into it. So, there's a lot of small businesses that are very kind of like client focused, right? They always say that their values are about being client focused, but truthfully, Wealthsimple has been kind of a textbook example of a company that's focused on that experience, on that client experience, and they've done exceptionally well compared to everyone else, compared to their competitors. So let's just kind of cut through the BS. How does Wealthsimple make sure to actually provide a service that's well above the industry standard?
Yeah, it's a really great point. I do think Wealthsimple is known for their service. And when I think of that aspect, I sort of think of how pervasive it is in our sort of company culture. You sort of talked about sort of having values around that, but you have to sort of take it a couple of levels further. So when I think of that at Wealthsimple, I really think of sort of three areas where it comes to life. So one is in the value statement at the very, very top. We have the client as one of our values. And really that's a reminder to all of us to keep the client in mind when we're making decisions. So, anything we do, empower the client, help the client. Will it help us gain trust with the client, or could it hurt that? And so I think that underlying value is essential. But there's a couple of other areas that I think, to your point, help bring it to life. So the next example is, we do, company all hands, company-wide meetings. I'm sure it's common in a lot of businesses. And on a pretty regular basis, we do client panels where someone on the internal team will interview clients across different products or different use cases. And it's really impactful to, meet the clients face to face and hear their exact challenges. There was one recently where one woman was talking about, getting service, whether it's sort of chatting with an agent or an advisor. And she's a mom with two little kids. She's got no time to line up at a bank or wait for a teller or, go and come back with other documents, right? And she spoke about, minutes matter, seconds matter in terms of service to her. And so it's not just, a metric where it's, try to, speed things up a little bit by 2 seconds or try to do a little bit better next month. There's a real person on that other end that, it matters and it's important that we deliver for her. So does it, is it worth spending the time, cutting 2 seconds off the wait time on chat to answer someone's question? Yeah, it does. It matters to her. She's got two little kids. She's juggling so much. And so we try to make it real for all of us of what it is we're trying to service. I think the last point is, we use this term in tech called, dog fooding or sort of using your own product. And we're all clients too. I'm a client of Wealthsimple as much as I'm an employee. And so, if we find friction in the process or we have an interaction that is confusing or didn't really solve our problem, as much as possible, I probably know as much as you possibly could about Wealthsimple from the inside. And so if I can't solve something our client is going to have an even worse time. And so we try to be really honest with ourselves of, was my own experience good? Is that what I would want for a client? And if it's not, how do we fix that? How do we remedy it? So I think that service standpoint and supporting clients has to sort of live throughout the organization. It can't just be mission. It can't just be one thing you do. You sort of have to live it at all levels. And I think that's what my experience at Wealthsimple has been, is that we try to put it everywhere.
Wow. Yeah. I think it's pretty cool that like, you're trying to like really envision the actual client, right? Like you have actual examples of people going through these experiences. I think that makes a really big difference. And also that you actually use your own product. I think, it goes a long way. Not every kind of company can do that. Like if they can't really have all the staff kind of do that. But in your case, that's a really great way of like actually seeing all those little bugs and then actually coming forward with like corrections. Yeah. So being super honest. That's cool. Yeah. No, I like it.
Yeah. I think that accountability matters to actually like see the changes through, not just sort of flag them.
Yeah. And I guess like Wealthsimple says they provide, delightful and human client experiences. And you've talked about the client experience, yet, your team uses robo advisors, not people, right? So how do you provide that, I guess, like client experience that's so high, but actually using robots, really,
Yeah, it's that combination of human and tech coming together. Our CEO Mike says, we're on a mission to build the most human financial services company, and that's sort of the getting at that idea of both sides. And I think part of the secret sauce at Wealthsimple, I think that what makes it special is the pairing of a great tech product, that robo advisor piece. Using technology to build smart portfolios and to have great simple interactions to move money. But we're all people at the end of the day. And so we need that reassurance, that comfort, that expertise that comes from that human touch element. And so, the fact that you can sort of speak to an advisor and get the education and the understanding and the advice you need while using a great product, I think is sort of what makes, again, it all work at Wealthsimple. Is I think you need both sides. I think the product on its own is great, but I know personally when it comes to my finances, sometimes I don't fully understand what's happening in the market or why things are happening the way they are. And there's great, online education and content, but even still, for a lot of people, you need that extra touch to sort of, break it down further. And so, yeah, the Wealthsimple methodology is really pairing great tech with great advisors and great advice and sort of bringing those two together to give you the sort of best experience possible.
Yeah. And I think you guys have been really great at providing that great experience for, ETFs and having that kind of robo advisor, I guess, experience for long-term investment, right? And so you guys have more recently kind of moved towards trading or even like some crypto. And so why did Wealthsimple pivot like that? Like if you have something that's working really well, why would you kind of do something different now?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm not sure I'd categorize it as a pivot. I think it's sort of an expansion into those, financial products. And I think another value of Wealthsimple's is accessibility for Canadians and giving them the access to those markets or those platforms or those, cryptocurrencies, whatever it might be. And I think we always have to pair the access with education, right? With that, talking to the advisors or finding content online or being emailed about it, right? I don't think it's just access we want to give people. We want to sort of help them make informed choices. I joined a little bit prior to the meme stock craze. And if you sort of remember that, it was sort of a wild time and people were sort of flooding the market and, betting on these stocks if they felt good about them because there was this sort of disproportionate, right? It was a really, really wild time in the market. And, I'm not an expert in stocks or in sort of the trading, but I sort of watched it all happen and I had friends, engaged with it. And we were obviously seeing it at Wealthsimple. And, companies handled that in different ways, right? Some people just sort of cut off access. Or some people sort of gave unfettered access and said, go, 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 go. If you want to take advantage, you can. And I think Wealthsimple tried to strike that balance of doing the right thing for Canadians, which was providing access, but putting up those guardrails to say, hang on a second, do you understand what it is you're getting involved with? Are you familiar with what's going on in the market? Here's how we understand this. And so whether it's, the managed investing robo-advisor product or trade or crypto or taxation, I think we really believe in this idea that we are going to pair the access with information and content to give informed, to help Canadians make informed decisions. And, on the crypto side, we were sort of Canada's first regulated crypto platform. We didn't want it to be the wild, wild west. We understood it was a technology that was in the market that people were seeking out. And so we tried to put the Wealthsimple stamp on that by by giving them the best experience possible, working with regulators to understand how to draw up boundaries and sort of play an active role in creating the best version of what that platform could be for Canadians.
And I think, like you said, it is a fine balance between the two. And I think that, truthfully, I think Wealthsimple did it like quite well. I think that, like you said, the education piece is huge. You kind of want to let people have that freedom to actually make the choices and investments that they feel that they want to be making, but you caveat that with like education and warnings, and then you let them do what they want. So I think that seems to be the right balance. And I guess like for businesses, they constantly have to kind of balance like how much money do we leave in reserves, how much money do we actually invest in the long term, and all of that. And I can tell from our own experience as accountants that we need to kind of help advise some of our clients on like how much reserve should there be, when should we actually start investing for long term, where do we put our money, and we've typically kind of told our clients, you should probably have about 2 months of cash reserve, depending on the type of industry they're in or the revenues that they have. Like if it's monthly recurring revenue, then maybe you don't need as much reserve, but if it's kind of like one-off revenue, then you probably need more cash reserve. And so, for us, I think the bigger question was like, where can you get the bigger ROI on investments, right? So if your business is actually getting really good return on investment on just reinvesting in inventory or in marketing, then just keep doing that, And if you feel like you can get a better return by just putting it into the stock market or with Wealthsimple, then let's do that, And I think that for growth companies, I think that's true, but there's also the kind of the dentists and the doctors and the professionals that just do their work. They have money saved up, and I think they just need some place that they feel secure for the long term. And I think that, we have several clients that are with Wealthsimple, and honestly, for us, the reporting is so great from your team, and honestly, the experience has been great for our own clients. So yeah, I think that's been great.
It's great to hear.
There's all kinds of like opportunities for investments, right? There's like real estate, there's ETFs, there's just straight up like trying to pick stocks, there's crypto, whatever. And so I think that simple approach goes a very long way with the education piece that you guys offer. So
yeah, everyone's situation is unique, right? Like, what I need to accomplish and what investments I might have will look so different from the next person, and my risk tolerance will look different than the next person's, and time horizons for my life goals. Our chief investment officer, Ben Reeves, talks about thinking not about activities, not about making a trade or buying crypto, but thinking about goals and thinking about the outcomes you want. Are you saving for retirement? Are you, putting money into your business? What are the outcomes you're trying to achieve? And building a plan or setting a pathway to achieve those versus thinking of, well, I got to make a trade, or I got to try to bet on the market, or I got to try to do this thing. Think about outcomes, not inputs.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I guess Wealthsimple does have like a program for, group pensions, group RSPs. You want to walk me through that? Like what are the differences between the group RSP thing and the group pension and all of that?
Yeah, this is a part that's, near and dear to my heart for sure. So yeah, Wealthsimple has a product called Wealthsimple Work, which is group retirement plans and group programs for businesses of all sizes. And right now for us, it's primarily group RRSPs. So setting up a matching program or a non-matching program where employees are getting some sort of component from their employer and they're sort of pulling it off the paycheck, which really builds that sort of consistent saving behavior, going back to sort of the original origins of Wealthsimple, and that consistent sort of saving approach to retirement or whatever your goals might be. And so yeah, we work with Canadian employers and leaders across the country supporting their employees through group RSPs. And we take the same sort of approach with those as we do on the retail side with Wealthsimple, which is we give this great account that lives in the same Wealthsimple app we all know and love and has this great tech experience. And we layer on the education, the financial wellness piece. We know financial wellness is a huge concern for employees right now. There's, pretty eye-opening stats about the stress levels that Canadians are feeling. It's been a wild couple of years with COVID and recovery and the market and inflation. And so we try to take our group RRSPs and pair that with access to advisors for employees, support for the administrators and sponsors running it, and financial wellness and education content across the board for all involved to address those topics. And the GRSP space is sort of started off in the pension world. You're sort of mentioning that, and there was defined benefit plans, there was defined contributions, there's sort of this group RRSP space, there's DPSPs. There was kind of with a whole myriad of options these days. We're seeing group TFSAs pop up and all of a sudden we have group FHSAs, the new first home savings account that the Fed's launched. So there is this huge spectrum of these products and approaches that any business can take. And it really just sort of, is across a spectrum of flexibility and benefits for both the employees and the employers. And it's just about working with a partner to find the right one that makes sense for any given business.
Yeah. No, it must be an interesting world to try and figure out which of these programs are actually going to be good for your clients and for Canadian businesses. And, when there's so much out there, right? From our own experience, like we've seen, for example, like you mentioned on the whole pension side, there's like the defined contribution, the defined benefit, and basically the defined benefit for people who kind of don't know what that is. Like it's basically where it's defined how much the employee is going to get when they do retire. So it's kind of like a formula usually, and it's like X number of years versus a percentage of their salary. And it's excessively expensive for an employer, right? And so things have moved to basically more of a defined contribution where basically the employer and the employee contribute towards their retirement. And then basically over time, the employee can retire based on that. And so that's a little bit more controlled and defined, I guess, in a different way, just defined. And so I think that that's been kind of the big change over the years, is to actually get a defined contribution kind of program. And now Wealthsimple actually has a pretty good program for it. I can kind of mention a little bit on our side. Like we actually moved to doing this. We had to kind of pick between, for our own firm, like between the group RSP and the group pension kind of like offering. And I guess we had to do this cost benefit analysis, the pros and cons. And, we felt that the group RSP was the best option for us because it helped with, spousal contributions, or if people need to borrow against their RSPs for their first home, like that's, so we can kind of help with basically people buying their own home, right?
Yeah.
And for us, like it's helped with like employee retention and recruiting, right? So that's been huge in our industry right now. So for ZenBooks historically, so as an example, in 2022, we had a 0% turnover. So none of our employees actually left. And in 2023, it was 11%, which averages out to about 6% over the last 2 years, which is much, much lower than the 13 or so percent for the industry. And so for us, like the employee retention is massive in our industry and any kind of professional service firm. And so anything we can do to kind of help people stay goes a very, very long way. I remember when we started looking into this, we started to like see the study from, I think it was the University of New Mexico, that talked about the cost of employee turnover being about 90 to 200% of the annual salary of a person, right? And that people stay for an average about 4 years at every job. And so there was another study that showed that any employer that actually has some sort of group benefits or pension or group RSP, it actually lengthens the average length of the term to 6.5 years. So it adds an extra 2.5 years on average just by getting those group retirement plans. And so basically there's a huge ROI on basically just spending and matching salaries for their pensions and retirement because they stay. And that turnover cost is so high.
It's a huge win. Like you highlight like the core benefit, which is that attraction and retainment of your sort of best employees, and it can make a huge impact. We're also Benefits Canada came out with a survey that sort of added another layer to this, which was around sort of lost productivity related to the stress of managing finances. So it found something about 72% of Canadian employees spent time in their active workday worrying or managing their personal finances, right? It's a huge thing that sort of is consuming time. And so what that sort of chalked up to was $40 billion in lost productivity for Canadian employers in 2022. That's an alarming stat on its own right. The trend is concerning too. That's almost double what it was in 2021. So it is on the rise. And, we don't have the 2023 stats yet, but I think everyone's sort of assuming and betting that we'll see another significant increase. I don't think the last year has been a particularly comfortable time for Canadians and investors and folks trying to save. And so, retention is important. The productivity and the stress levels, again, like bringing in not just that account, but having the educational component and the services around it to sort of answer those questions and put those worries at ease. That makes a real meaningful difference to employers in Canada who, part of the point of these programs is to offer a benefit, right? You want your employees to be engaged to get this benefit. And, without that, or with, low adoption or whatever that challenge might be, or not having a plan, retention's an issue, productivity can be an issue. That worry and concern your employees feel is very real and tangible.
This episode of Small Business, Big Insights is brought to you by ZenBooks. ZenBooks is a reimagined, full-service online accounting experience. I work at ZenBooks, and we bring a fresh, unique, and modern approach to a very old-fashioned industry. We've been working remotely well before it was cool. We're a team of advisors, accountants, payroll professionals that provide ongoing impactful insight to small business owners and key decision makers. That means we get into the nitty-gritty of weekly calls with ongoing reporting, bookkeeping, payroll, tax filings, and tax planning. Even if you're already working with an accountant or a bookkeeper, or you have some accounting staff on your team, you should talk to ZenBooks about the tools and expertise that they have to offer. Check out ZenBooks at zenbooks.ca. Now let's get back to the episode. And one perspective I also heard of was essentially if you can help your employees better manage their money, they're going to put less pressure on salary increases. Right? Because if they can manage and they can budget and they can invest for their retirement, they don't need to keep asking for a 10% increase every year, like.
Right,
Yeah.
right. There's a lot of studies out there as well, and we hear this in the market talking to different employers, that candidates or employees who are looking for a new job or thinking about making a switch, they will forego a higher salary for a better benefits package because they will be more holistically taken care of. On the health side, they'll have, dental and vision taken care of. And on the financial side, if they have the sort of, group benefit or the retirement benefit and they're saving for the long term and sort of building up that nest egg, they're feeling more confident about that. That brings a serious amount of peace of mind to Canadian employees above and beyond what they might, necessarily get from that salary component. I mean, compensation is important, but the whole package really is the key for Canadians.
And I guess like companies, I mean, with like yourself, like you basically we have to deal with robo advisors, right? But honestly, it's nice to deal with humans sometimes, right? Like, is there like a way of like chatting with someone?
Yeah, Wealthsimple, again, sort of prides itself on having that sort of human component to it. The technology comes in your simple interactions with the app. It comes with some of the algorithms and technology we use to, build smart portfolios and keep costs low. But again, that human component for us, the most human financial services company, is essential to what we're bringing. And so that could be as simple as you have a question and you need financial advice. You want to speak to an advisor. Maybe in the Wealthsimple Work context, you're building a plan and you're thinking of improving your plan and you want to speak to us about, what are other companies in my industry or my size doing? How do I benchmark across that?
Yeah.
What are we hearing from other employees or other employers on like current trends? Maybe it's a support ticket and you had an issue and you need to get that resolved quickly. Like things do come up. We want to make sure you have access to somebody at all times. And so it's also about, format and methodology. So maybe you just want to chat with someone online through a chat functionality. You can do that. You maybe want to speak to someone on the phone, like on my side of the business on Wealthsimple Work, we're doing group presentations to employers and employees about whatever that sort of topic might be, most relevant. And so, yeah, we really believe that sort of human element to our experience. Again, you need both pieces. You need the great tech, you need the great product, but you need the human experience as well.
Okay, interesting. And I guess like from another perspective, like this all seems really great and interesting, right? And sure, there's a great return on investment in the long term, but I guess how much does it actually cost small business owners to actually get some level of group benefit or group pension? Business owners are kind of tight on money right now, right? So how expensive is it really?
Yeah, it's been a really challenging couple of years for business owners. The great thing about a group retirement benefit is you can start with basically no cost, right? We sort of say, a non-matching plan, which has no commitment from the employer. It's just a vehicle for employees to start saving for retirement and some tax benefits through that. That's better than no plan. It may not be the most competitive plan in the market. Let's be real and honest about how that would stack up. But a plan is better than no plan. And so we encourage businesses of any size to start the process, start a plan, introduce it to your employees, roll it out, get that sort of foundation set, and make improvements over time where you can start to do it. And it can be really any range of cost to the employer, depending on exactly how big they are, what their employees are like. So we see everything from non-matching plans to baseline contributions. Could be as simple as everyone's going to get $200 this year through this plan, or everyone's going to get $1,000 or $2,000, whatever the right scale is for the business, to complicated tiered plans that rank by tenure, and they get a 5% match on however much they want to contribute, and you can make it as complicated or robust as you like. But the important thing to remember is you don't have to launch that full plan. You don't have to go all the way there. It's been incredibly tough for businesses the last couple of years, and not every business has a ton of money to reinvest at this moment, but you can still get started with a baseline plan, even if it's a small contribution or non-matching. That will make a meaningful difference to your employees. And, an optimistic outlook, but as times get better or more resources come into the business, as things sort of tick up, you can then start to reinvest more, and your employees will notice. We worked with one client who, had sort of delayed or put off, starting a plan for a long time. They're a mid-sized tech company. They're in an incredibly competitive landscape. And they sort of said, we want to do two things. We want to be more attractive to talent that's out there. We want to reward our current employees. And on the rewarding current employees, they did a significant salary increase for everyone at the company. These people had been at this company for a long time. It was a close company. They were really starting to make headway in their industry. So they did salary increases for everyone, and they brought out a pretty solid plan for their employees. And speaking to the sponsor and the executives who rolled out this plan, the salary increase was great. Don't get them wrong. Everyone loves a little bump to their paycheck every pay period. Everyone still talks about the group plan. Everyone still sees that impact on a regular basis. The paycheck sort of fades into the background a little bit in life, just as expenses and inflation ticks up. But they see that deposit every 2 weeks or every month from their employer, and they see their contributions being matched, and they see that cumulative growth over time, what just like a massive impact that makes. And the other thing we say is we can't really call it a return because it's not like a market return, but especially if an employer is making a match, if I put in 2% and I get matched 2% by my employer, that's 100% sort of upgrade right there out of the gate before anything happens in the market, before any upswings. I'm ahead. I've doubled, right? And that is a tremendous vehicle for building wealth over the long run, building that nest egg. And so again, going back to your original question, I sort of got sidetracked there, but go back to your original question. An employer can start it for $0 on their side today and build the plan over time to be as competitive or as generous to their employees that they can make it fit. But it's about working for every business, and some can start that tomorrow and some can start that in a couple of years. And it's just finding the right sort of provider like Wealthsimple Work or someone else in the market who can sort of grow with you and build that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, with our own experience, once we've kind of put this together, we actually get really good reports from Wealthsimple. Every pay run, it's like all automatic. It just goes straight to our payroll to basically tell us what's happening. And basically it's actually so well organized from a tech perspective that it's such a smooth experience for employees, but also for the actual payroll person that's running payroll. So I think that goes a long way for us. And when we are suggesting it to clients, it's actually super smooth.
It's a really important part. I've talked a lot about the employee experience, about having that contribution from their employer, but it can be a lot of work to administer these programs. And what I've learned working with small and mid-sized businesses is nobody has one job. Everyone's covering a bunch of different aspects, trying to do the best for their employees, the best for the business. And so there's not a lot of time. There's always another product that needs attention. And so our system's designed to be like a very simple sort of install, if you will, or setup process. It just takes a couple of minutes. We do education for your employees. We get them onboarded. We can do recurring education and recurring sort of improvements to the plan. But the idea is that it just takes a few minutes each pay run to sort of run this program. It shouldn't take hours. It shouldn't be a lot of work. It shouldn't be matching multiple spreadsheets or trying to match things with payroll or trying to get some other administrator in. We want this to be as seamless as possible. And so that admin experience, that sponsor experience is really strong for us and is another important component on top of the employee experience.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's cool. And I guess whenever people are putting in money for their group RSPs or group pension or whatnot, what is that actually invested in? What are they, is it like a specific ETF? Is it like part crypto? Is it, part what's actually being invested in? Do people have their own choice and all of that? And yeah.
That's a really important question. And yeah, so basically, if folks are familiar with the sort of Wealthsimple investment platform that what we call managed investing, a sort of robo-advisor approach, it's the same portfolios on the group side. So it's a basket of 8 to 10 low-cost ETFs. And what we do is we actually put employees through a really great onboarding process that takes a bit of time, but it's very quick. It's all digital. It's all in the app, and it's a really important step. So what it does is it starts off by asking them, how sort of essentially financially literate are you? Are you comfortable in this space? Do you know these topics? And someone can say, I know nothing, or someone can say, I'm an expert, or somewhere in the middle. And what we do is we tailor that onboarding experience to their comfort level or to their knowledge so that we aren't using technical financial jargon for someone who isn't familiar with these concepts. So we walk them through the onboarding process. We understand what their goals are. Are you saving for retirement? Are you saving for a house? What are you trying to achieve? It's important to understand their risk level or their risk tolerance. How comfortable are they in the short, medium, long term with certain degrees of risk? And that's a very personal choice. And then the last layer is we have this concept at Wealthsimple of portfolio themes, right? And this is where like sort of the values component comes back into it, where we say you can have a classic standard portfolio, right? Which is this basket of ETFs and, based off your risk profile and all your goals, we think this is the right portfolio. But we have SRI and halal portfolios as well, where you say, I'm interested in investing. I want to invest and I have, maybe a risk level of 7, but I also care about the environment. I want to put it into green companies. Or, we work with a lot of companies where they have a large Muslim population, and we have a portfolio that's Sharia compliant and is audited on a regular basis so that they can be included in this experience as well, so that they can invest, with their values. I think that's a really important part to the Canadian employee landscape these days is that investment by value. So when you package it all together, you have a simple onboarding process where through their goals and their values that they want to invest in and their risk tolerance, we recommend a portfolio that's going to hold, 8 to 10 ETFs. And we sort of do that based off what any individual needs. And from there, they can then make changes, right? Like if they go, I agree with this, but I actually want something a little bit different, they can select that. Or they want to change out one little thing, they can do that too. But we come with a recommendation that's sort of right for them, which is, pretty heavily contrasted to the traditional way of doing this, which was you get a page of a fund lineup and it would say some sort of scrambled name of some sort of fund description. I always sort of relate it to trying to pick apart a receipt where you have some of the words, but you don't really know what it all means. And it would be like, Canadian equities, balance, growth, whatever. And it was never really clear. And so one is you weren't totally certain necessarily what you were investing in, especially if you didn't have that sort of expert knowledge. And the other piece that's like really important on this, we sometimes forget is, okay, even if I understand what it is that the right thing for me to be invested in? Is that what I need given everything else I'm trying to do based off my investment goals, based off maybe other investments I have somewhere else? And so our sort of approach is to ultimately put them into an investment portfolio that makes sense for them in their current time frame with their values based on what they're trying to achieve. And not just sort of give them, again, a list of 100 funds or 2 funds and say, pick which one you like with no sort of context. Again, it's that constant sort of theme of the tech and the experience match with the advice and sort of that informed decision-making process. And so, you end up with, on a baseline sort of the math sort of works out to about 33 different portfolios, and you can sort of tailor within there. But again, it's about values, it's about goals, it's about, their risk tolerance and finding the right recommendation for them.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, I think everybody's experience is so different, right? Like they're so personal, and I also noted that Wealthsimple actually does personal income tax as well, which has its own implications of like individual kind of needs and all of that. Yeah, kind of walk me through that. I guess like Wealthsimple does personal tax now. Like, do they do like corporate or like the complicated stuff? Like what's going on there?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I think about 4 years ago now, Wealthsimple acquired Simple Tax, which was sort of its own product for a while, now called Wealthsimple Tax. And it is a great platform for Canadians to simply and quickly file their taxes. It's great on the individual side. I personally use this product and I'm obsessed with it. I can't speak highly enough about, the tax process, which is usually not the most fun thing to talk about, but really it is a great experience. And so what it does is it's sort of the Wealthsimple approach to taxes, which is it walks you through the process of having your documents collected, pulling in, and it works with you to try to capture obviously as much benefit and accuracy as possible. And so it asks you questions along the way. Did you attend school? Did you do these things? Did you have these activities? And there's some great features that go along with it. So after you sort of fill it out and sort of get the baseline, it has some optimization recommendations for you. It says, hey, you may want to consider this, or like if we ask a couple extra questions over on this section, there might actually be more value for you there to just get to like the best result. And then the other benefit that I love, which is just that sort of peace of mind, sort of safety net element, is we have sort of audit protection, which is basically if you were to get audited for whatever reason, you can have a tax expert on hand to support you through that process. Because it's complicated, it can be kind of scary for folks. No one really expects it to happen, but things do come up. And so it's an awesome product. Highly recommend it for anyone to sort of check it out. And there are tax experts on our team who can answer your questions. To your sort of first point there, maybe most of what I'm doing is just my own personal income tax and managing my own stuff, but maybe I have a side business as well that has some, implications on my tax situation, and you're not really sure how to handle it, or maybe you just got incorporated, or maybe it's this other piece, or speaking of small business owners, lots of the founders are owners, and what does that do? And so you can speak to our tax experts to understand what is the right way to approach both the business side or the personal side, or how they interact. It's a really a great product top to bottom.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, I used to use actually Simple Tax before I started my own accounting firm, and it honestly works so good. Like it's really good for the, like, I'm gonna say not the simpler kind of returns, but like from super simple to kind of medium to advanced kind of thing. But at some point when you start getting incorporated, or things get really complicated, I would say like reach out to ZenBooks or another tax accountant for your options, because the Tax Act is incredibly complicated, and there's just certain things like you should talk to a person, and like you said, like you talk to an advisor at some point. But honestly, I think it works really well for a large portion of Canadians who realistically have a super simple tax return.
That's the use case, right? It's folks like, I always use myself as the example of, like, I'm a salaried employee, I have some simple investments. It's all tied together. It's really simple. And yeah, firms like yours is really needed when you have something sort of beyond that. In any case, again, financial decisions of any source, like, find the experts that are right for you. And in the case of, an accounting firm like yours, it's definitely the right fit for someone who is tackling a bigger equation to sort of solve on the tax front.
Cool. And I guess with Wealthsimple Work, or for yourself, like what are the next big projects and initiatives that you are excited about?
Yeah, it's always a fun question. I think Wealthsimple is known for innovation in the space, and 2023 was no different. 2024 is going to be no different. I'm really focused on the group retirement and sort of work side of it. And there's really three areas, I guess I would say, we're going to focus on. It's sort of our core audiences. So one is the member or the employee experience, and building more choice into those options for employers to give their employees. So we talked about group first FHSAs, the first home savings accounts that the Feds just launched. We had people the second that came out saying, could we do that as a group program? Could we give that to our employees? Maybe we work with a business that's Toronto centric and everyone's struggling to buy a home because house prices are so off the charts. And so that becomes very real for certain businesses. So more choice, more flexibility, more options there. We spoke a little bit about that sort of admin experience, that sponsor piece about making it simple to run this on a regular basis. We want to invest in that as well and bring features and upgrades and integrations and flexibility there to just make it as simple and turnkey as possible for sponsors and admins. And we've been working a long time in 2023 with some exciting partnerships on both the tech side and the sort of broker consultant world as well, that I think is going to pay off in 2024, and employers are really going to see that. So we want to bring, again, innovation and great tech, the human experience, to Canadian companies across the country. And so that's our focus. So there'll be innovation in all three areas that we're really excited to roll out to Canadian employers.
That's super cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there.
I'm the first to know about them. Yeah.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing more about the group, like first, I forget what it's called, FHSA?
Yeah, I struggle with the acronym all the time. The first home savings account, I think is what it's called, FHSA.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And I guess we're running a little bit out of time here. Is there anything else that you think we missed, or that you think people should know more about?
No, I think we covered a lot of the really important topics. I think small business owners and medium-sized business owners, you mentioned it earlier, have sort of gone through the ringer. And I think we're really proud of working with Canadian companies and their efforts to support their employees and keep their businesses strong and their employees happy and healthy. And we went back to sort of the group plans, that starting a plan is a great way for your business to sort of show that commitment to your employees and keep them in a good spot, which will then help your bottom line and help you run the business. And so I encourage all Canadian employers to find the experts and the supports they need in the different areas of the business, whether it's your business, Eric, or our business at Wealthsimple. Yeah. It really is about finding the correct partners. And so, I think 2024 is going to be great for businesses across Canada.
Awesome. Okay. And how do people reach out to you, Gren, if they need to? Is it kind of like LinkedIn or Twitter, or is it the Wealthsimple site?
Yeah, all methods work well. Wealthsimple Work, if you Google that, is sort of the name of the product, like on the group side. You can find me on LinkedIn, Gren Austin. It's definitely a unique name, so I'm basically the only one there. And reach out. Everyone's welcome to sort of reach out on either the website or through my LinkedIn. I'm excited to talk to as many Canadian employers as possible.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Honestly, this is really insightful. Even though we already use kind of the Wealthsimple Work platform, I've still continued to learn a lot from what you're talking about today. So I can't imagine people who have never heard of this, how much they must have learned. So again, thank you so much, Gren. Appreciate your time. Amazing. Thanks.
Thank you for being a customer, Eric, and thank you for having me today.
On our next episode, we've got Jeremy Irving, who helps us better understand how to use tech as a secret weapon to drive employee satisfaction and engagement, while also leveraging it as a competitive advantage in your business. Follow now on your podcast provider of choice and get notified of upcoming episodes and more. Don't forget to rate and review this episode. Thanks. Does your computer feel slow or sluggish? Your computer could be under attack. Today's viruses and malware are designed to get past your antivirus software and hide in your system. There's a simple solution. Fix Me Stick. Fix Me Stick is a virus removal made easy. Plug it in, and it takes the viruses, ransomware, spyware, trojans, and all other malware out. Pick up a Fix Me Stick today to keep your computer fast and clean. Available at fixmestick.com.